I dream of it, amongst the wild threads of history and the myriad of paths.
Perilous are your first and millionth steps onto the sands of Dune Awakening, an unashamedly harsh game that throws you deep within the desert, along with nothing but a crafting kit and a vague mission. Find the Fremen, wake the sleeper.
You have one task. Find the Fremen. Wake the sleeper.
What starts as a lonesome journey of scavenging scrap metal and sucking dew from plants gradually morphs into server-wide clashes over spice and fortune. It's a survival game experience unlike any other I've played. The reason why is clear. Dune Awakening isn't one game but three, a psychedelic melting of genres. At first a full-fat survival game, 30 hours later it becomes an RPG rich with lore and political intrigue, another 30 and you're in a Discord call collaborating with guilds on how best to fend off the Atreides and win the weekly Landsrad. Only now, having played through everything available, do I see the full picture. Regardless of your progress, foundational survival gameplay is the connecting tissue that makes the whole thing work. Initially a standard offering, the process of gathering material around the starter area of Haga Basin, refining your haul at your handcrafted base, and manufacturing new gear is made endlessly compelling with an unwavering faithfulness to the source material. The folks at Funcom are clearly freaks for Dune. Aside from the typical loop of gathering and building, each zone is peppered with contracts that push you towards points of interest like grand pillars with tips that touch the clouds, or eco-labs, the game's spin on the traditional RPG dungeon that offers both a reprise from endless rock and sand as well as vehicle materials. Contracts also introduce various factions of goons that pollute the landscape. These, your starter course and the rich lore that bubbles up from the world of Dune, are intriguing enough, but for those who aren't there for the narrative threads, they also teach you the ropes. Dune Awakening takes a subtle approach to onboarding that gives you the tools and trusts you to figure out how to use them. The result is a survival experience that floats rather than drags. It's got a wonderful difficulty curve that starts off easy but quickly ramps up with tougher enemies and locations that are harder to navigate. The moment you leave the tutorial zone, you're thrust headfirst into tanky, heavy gunners that tear through your health bar, as well as shielded enemies. Here you learn the importance of a shield, and of kiting a shielding foe away from his mates so you can slowly skewer him. It's a sudden but firm wake-up call, a reminder that there's more to fear than Wimes. You're not gated off from the tougher zones, but foes there are tough to take down without adequate equipment. The result is something not linear, but still structured, open but guided. This smartly also allows Dune Awakening to kick your teeth in on the regular, which may frustrate some, sure, but putting aside my desire to tell folks to toughen up, this is Arrakis. I'll note that massive losses are never unfairly sprung on you. You can always go out and reclaim lost gear, unless you're eaten by a Wime. Those Wimes are clearly indicated when on your tail as you hang around on open sand. Without such risks, the rewards are less sweet. Open sand holds hidden treasure, valuable resources, and spice. Weighing up how long to stay in the reach of Mr. Wiggles is the kind of decision that lies at the heart of every survival game. While arguably harsh, it's this kind of thing that instills a sense of dread in players, a tendency to caution that'll be dead handy when you start venturing out into endgame activities. In short, big up the Wime. He can keep my bike, frankly. We got more Wimes than Team 17!
I'm sorry, Aristay. There are
wars to fight, cities to destroy, Sardaukar to kill.
The only component of Dune Awakening I'm not quite so sold on is the combat. The slow blade penetrates the shield as per the novels and films, but as such, hand-to-hand clashes can feel sluggish at times. The only way to take down a shield is to overload it with a deluge of regular projectiles or specialised guns that neutralise them, or through a slow, piercing blow in melee. The latter is the norm, and as such melee combat can devolve into either a flurry of spammed light attacks so as to trigger a stagger state where slow stabs are guaranteed, or the parry waiting game where you sit back and wait for an enemy to attack first before reflecting the blow, causing a stagger and once again a slow stab. The result of all this is a crushing halt to the momentum. which may work well enough in one-on-one fights, but rip the soul from clashes against larger groups. Ranged combat too suffers from the deep roots in the source material. Your shield can't be active while you shoot, you see, so ranged enemies often don't have shields at all. As such, you just shoot them a few times and they drop as fast as pandemic hobbies. There are technically alternative solutions in weapons that offer avenues for bypassing shields, be it through overwhelming firepower or special twists on how projectiles interact with them. But the vast majority of your time fighting will be within those bothersome boundaries. It's the only part where a sturdy attachment to the source material led to a soured gameplay experience. I imagine the developers at Funcom found themselves in a bit of a bind, unable to break away from the tenets of Dune action to create a more fluid fighting system. At around the 40-hour mark, you build your first ornithopter, and are thrust out beyond Haga Basin into the wider world. Here, all this way into the game is where the story takes the stage, and I've got to say, it became a surprising treat for me. Suddenly, Dune Awakening shifts from a pure survival game to an RPG, more similar to another MMO in Star Wars: The Old Republic. After all that is concluded, you're left with the endgame. Funcom has tried, through interviews and community-facing dev vlogs, to shed the MMO tag the game has gained. I do understand why. Direct player interactions are few and far between, limited only to the steady gentrification of Haga Basin as 1,000 stoners build cubes across the surface. However, after roughly 80 hours, you leave the sandy new build estates and enter the deep desert. I love the deep desert. It's a gigantic map of mostly empty, sandy expanse, save for a scattering of outcrops where high-end materials, PvE encounters and political capture points can be found. More on that in a little bit. Here, it's full-on PvP, baby. Maximum loot, maximum danger. A flock of 8 bozos in attack ornithopters can rush you down and steal your hard-earned ore, and they may call you mean names on voice comms while they do so. I appreciate this style of PvP is polarizing. It can be rough when you lose stuff in what feels like an unfair fight. But this fierce environment encourages joining a guild, which in turn thrusts players into the weekly political boxing match that I've found endlessly captivating.
But only accomplished guilds may earn their place among the Atreides or Harkonnen.
You see, every week there's the Landsraad, where 5x5 grid of galactic houses have a different request each time, and it's your job as a member of the House Harkonnen or Atreides to win them over. You can do these by achieving certain tasks, handing in a specific resource or killing a number of bandits. Alternatively, there's a house-specific capture point in the deep desert that constantly accrues favour while under the control of a faction. Winning the Landsraad is important as it offers special bonuses for the following week. On my server, we recently won the right to a special shop with powerful guns and melee weapons for sale. We can now take these and leap into PvP this week with increased vigour. This here is the MMO portion of Dune Awakening, and it's a scorcher. It feels less like structured group activities you'd see in a traditional MMORPG raid, and more like grouping up in classic WoW for a world boss, or joining a mount farm train in Final Fantasy XIV. It's organic community play, something that forms bonds, strong friendships, and undoubtedly tense rivalries. It's because of this, I suspect, that Dune Awakening's in-game player base has proven so social, so helpful, and so jovial. People will fly up to your house and compliment you, or try to recruit you as to welcome you into their vast guild base. People frequently use global chat, narrating whatever's going on at any one time. They may even complain passionately about a player called Jesus who is leading a pack of half-dozen ornithopters in a mass ganking effort. That's not something I made up. I believe, as of writing, Jesus is still at large. This here is the glue trap that'll keep folks playing Dune Awakening for a while. Many, I'm sure, will end their journey in Haga Basin, build a base that looks like a penis, where would Funcom be without those, and log out forever. Those who remain, who envelop themselves in the endgame, will find themselves as snared as I have, join a guild, and become genuinely invested in politics of their own slice of Arrakis. Funcom, creators of MMOs like Anarchy Online and Secret World, may have stepped away from a pure MMO setup with Dune Awakening, but the developer's expertise has borne fruit here. Dune Awakening is a case study in how to adapt a beloved body of work right. It's 3 wonderful games married into a frankly exceptional send-up to one of sci-fi's greatest written works, obviously crafted by hopeless romantics enamoured with Dune. Superb survival gameplay, a bold narrative, and the social playground of its PvP endgame work wonders in unison and form a game most will get a kick out of. Perhaps more importantly, at a time when AAA game development tends to play it safe, I'm sure there was real pressure to sand down some of Dune Awakening's many quirks. I'm very glad that didn't happen. 4 stars, although you can probably knock one off that if you're not a big, massive Riddy.